Okay, my name is Dan Zatella, and I am going to take you on a tour of Petrozavodsk. I'm going to walk from my dormitory in Staraya Kukkovka, in the south of the city, to the center. If you're watching this in the future, right now coronavirus is the big thing in the news. And because of that, I might have to go home soon. I've been a Fulbrighter in Russia for the last year. Well, not quite year, since September. But even though I'm planning on going home in June, even though that is the plan, I might have to leave sooner because the world is kind of freaking out right now. And so because of that, I just wanted to take this video for memory. Because I might be leaving sooner than expected, and it's sad because honestly I had a difficult time during part of this experience, especially the first half was kind of rough, and I'm finally kind of getting into it, and now this might disrupt it. So I just want to take a video to remember this by. So anyway, I just walked out of the dorm. This is Общежитие номер 1, the famous, the notorious in Staraya Kukkovka. And as you can see, this is the land of 1,000 lakes. Over here we have the Uprising ozero, the biggest lake. And it's always fun to ride a taxi over here because they have to get up onto the side of the road. It's really a trek to avoid this massive, just giant, enormous puddle. And over there you can see some of the newer buildings in this neighborhood. This is Staraya Kukkovka again, which is a part of the Kukkovka region in Petrozavodsk. And Staraya Kukkovka is on the very edge of the city. It's not the furthest region from the center. There's Kluchavaya further to the south, and some people live even further away in little kind of suburb villages like Ptica Fabrika. But this is pretty far out, and people don't often come here. I know people who've lived here for 5 years, who've lived here even longer, who have never been to Staraya Kukkovka. And of course there are a lot of rumors about it. People say that there are lots of Roma people who will rob you, that there are just a lot of maybe not nice people in Staraya Kukkovka, but honestly I haven't experienced any of that. And I feel a lot of pride in my neighborhood, even though it's got somewhat of a negative reputation. I think that really comes from the 90s, because in the 90s and early 2000s things really were crazy here. I mean, I've asked some friends about this. I have one friend who lives in Kluchavaya, that region that's a little further out even than Staraya Kukkovka, and he was telling me that at that point, you know, in the early 2000s when things were pretty wild in Russia, and really only just starting to settle down, it actually was a pretty dangerous place to be. But now, you know, you'll see some alcoholics, of course, who might not be friendly, but you know, as a white man who can pass as Russian, like I've never felt unsafe in Staraya Kukkovka, not even Staraya Kukkovka, which is fair. I mean, I don't see why he would want to. Again, it's my neighborhood, I'm proud of it, but I can't say it's like the best place. Again, there are lots of holes in the road, and there's not really anything to do. I mean, there are some stores. There's a Magnet, of course. There's a Magnet on every corner in Petrozavodsk where you can buy all your groceries from. And there are some other small stores, but there's not anything to do in Staraya Kukkovka. Maybe the best thing is the woods. And actually, you see the 25 coming down the road right now. That's one of the two main buses that serve this area. There's the 25, which runs up Prospekt Aleksandra Nevskovo and then takes you to the center from the eastward side and kind of goes up further into, I forget if it's Oktyabrski or Pervomaisky. I don't know the regions in the north of the city as well as in the south of the city. I know the south really well. I've walked everywhere, but I don't know the north as well. But basically, 25 goes there, and the Dvoika, Moya Lubimaya Dvoika, it takes you to the center and then goes a bit further north. And I'm actually not sure where it goes after you get to like the Avtovokzal area, because there's the train station, and that's right in the center. And then a little further north, there's the Avtovokzal, which is the auto station. It's where a lot of buses that go out of the city take you. They'll pick you up. And I don't really know where the Dvoika goes after that, but the Dvoika is wonderful for its unreliability. Sometimes it comes in 2 minutes, you just get to the bus stop and it's right there. Other times it'll take a half hour. I've waited forever for the Dvoika, so that's why I generally take this route now. Because it's a longer walk, of course. It's about a 5-minute walk to the Dvoika versus a 15-minute walk this way to get to the 5 trolley bus, to get to all these different buses that can take you to the center, but it's a lot more reliable. And this is the popular road, the popular street to walk on in this area, because the one next to it, it's oh god, which highway is it? It's I want to say Lososinskaya Chaussee. Klucherskaya Chaussee is a little further over, but you can walk one over in that direction to the Lososinskaya Chaussee, but there are a lot more cars there, and because there are always puddles, they'll just splash water on you. I've had that happen to me a couple of times. So this is the preferred route, and this is my standard route. Again, this is just my standard route to the university. I'm walking today to go teach what could actually be my final class here. I really hope it's not, but it could be my final class in Petrozavodsk. And it's going to be on technology. I'm also excited. I'm going to share a few top-notch memes with the students and see if we can analyze those memes, and also if they can share some of their memes with me, maybe translate some Russian memes into English. So that's going to be my class today. That's where I'm walking to. And then basically I'm just trying to meet a lot of friends. I'm trying to see as many people as I possibly can. Also, you have a lot of wells around here that you can get water from. We're right by the lake. There are a lot of water sources. Again, Karelia, I joked earlier that this is the land of much more than 1,000 lakes. But Karelia really is kind of Russia's Minnesota, in that there are a huge amount of lakes here. There are so many water sources. And so one of the cool things is that you can get water just from all these different public wells around the city. I've never actually gotten it from there. I don't know how clean it is. I'd probably have to filter it and boil it. But it's nice to know that it's there. Just in case, you know, in these trying times of coronavirus and whatever. So here, they're building a home. And as you can see in this neighborhood, there are a lot of private homes, and that is not typical of Petrozavodsk. That's more typical of the outskirts of Petrozavodsk. There are also some just empty lots, destroyed homes. At times, it's reminiscent a bit of a, what do you call it? Of like a Rust Belt city, kind of the outskirts of a Rust Belt city, with some demolished homes, some abandoned homes. But now it's already coming into view, an apartment building, finally. And actually, I'll explain more about that in a second, but here is one of my favorite signs in Petrozavodsk. Ty это Zahadi, Yesachel. And that's a reference to Žil Byl Pios, which is a wonderful Soviet animation. I only found out about it because I saw this dog all over, like, Если что, Zahadi. I just saw it all over Petrozavodsk, on cars, on doors, and I got interested. I was like, where did this come from? And I looked up the quote, and I found out that it's from Žil Byl Pios. There once lived a dog. And it's a really wonderful, I guess, fairy tale, an animation. about a dog who gets sent out of his home because he's really lazy. He's not bad-spirited at all. He just doesn't protect the home from a robber. And so his family kicks him out, and he meets this dog in the woods, who I forget if he was kicked out a long time ago or if he just doesn't have an owner. But basically this dog who was kicked out, he brings the dog he finds back to a party. Basically the dog that he finds helps him to get back on good terms with his family. They stage a kidnapping of one of the children of the family, and the dog who was kicked out gets to save the child from nothing, because this is all staged. But then the dog is back on good terms, and he invites his friend who he met in the woods when he was kicked out over for dinner. And it's just kind of a nice, heartwarming story of friendship, camaraderie, and how to treat one another. And at the very end of it, this dog who was just in the forest goes back to his forest life, his homeless life. But he says, "Если что, заходи." So if you need to, if something comes up, stop by. And you'll see that, I've seen it again on cars, on that door right there. I really like it. I think that there's something powerful about Soviet cartoons, multiki as they call them, multfilmy. And I really like that. And so now I'm just walking. That is one of the main crossroads here. And now I'm emerging from Staraya Kukkovka into regular Kukkovka. And you can see over there a building with one of the typical designs of Petrozavodsk. There are these kind of two designs that you'll see everywhere in this city. And one of them, it looks almost like a space invader. It's that one over there. And I think it goes back to the Soviet times. They just had a couple of main designs they used, and why add any more? And I had a poll on my Instagram story. Which do you like more? Pick your fighter. That one or a pointy boy, which I'll hopefully get to show you during this video. And people chose the Space Invader. It was close. It was like 56-44, but people liked the Space Invader more. And literally, like, you can look over there, and again, you'll see it. And then you'll still see some like two-level homes. We're still in Kukkovka, so we're still, but you can see two-level homes, even pretty close to the center. So it's this interesting mixture of the classic, like, Soviet 5, 6, 7-story apartment building. These novostroyki, as they call them, these taller, newer buildings that are a part of current development, and two-story homes like the ones over there. And you see they even mix them together. You've got this two-story one, and then you've got the big apartment building right behind it. It's probably like 10 or 12 stories right there. And you can see the 9 bus that takes you to Drevlyanka. And you can get to Lotus Plaza, which is the biggest mall in Petrozavodsk, on that bus. And I've gone on the bus a couple of times. I've gone on that specific bus a couple of times, and it's very slow because it takes you all around Petrozavodsk. But I think it's the best bus to take if you want to get, for instance, to Lotus Plaza or Drevlyanka, one of Petrozavodsk's many regions. And if Staraya Kukkovka is to the south of the center, then Drevlyanka is more to the west of the center. It's on kind of the southwest side of the city. It's almost this closed-off region. Like, you have all of the city, and then it crosses, I think, some train tracks and some other stuff on a bridge, and then you have this sort of separate region, Drevlyanka. And you can see Magnit in the distance, a smaller produkty store, kind of like a smaller grocery store, convenience store right over here. And we are walking right now on Ulitsa Rovia, and you can see in the distance, that's the other design I was talking about. These two designs are everywhere in Petrozavodsk. And this is the pointy boy. It's like an arrow. And I've walked this route so many times because I'm somebody who loves to walk. I love to gulyat. I wish we had a good word for that in English. But basically to walk around, that's what gulyat means. It's to walk around, to leisurely stroll. I would never say I'm going to go leisurely stroll, but I will always say, ya pogulyayu. I even found out recently, I have in my Tinder bio, ya gulyayushi po gorodu человек. I'm a person who likes to gulyat, to stroll around the city. And I found out when I was telling that to a friend yesterday, my good friend Volodya, that's gulyayushi человек. I'm glad that I have gulyayushi po gorodu, because that means what it sounds like. But if you're a gulyayushi человек, then that means that you're like an alcoholic who is always going to gulyat, I say, with my, I don't even know what to call that gesture, but basically, you're an alcoholic, you tell your wife, oh, I'm going to go gulyat, but what that really means is I'm going to go get, like a 40 with my couple of amigos who I like to also gulyat with, and just get shit-faced away from the family. So I'm glad that my Tinder bio is gulyayushi po gorodu человек, because he said, oh yeah, that's normal, and not gulyayushi человек. And maybe this place over here, you can see that sign, Krasnaya Belia. That is the place that you might stop if you are a gulyayushi человек, because they have the cheapest alcohol in the city. And again, this is a pretty standard Russian city atmosphere. I mean, there are many pages on Vkontakte, on Russian social media, that kind of show typical Russian life and views from different cities. And there's this one, it's not a page itself, but there's this page, I think it's Romantika Gorodskih Okrain, and one of their series is V любом городе России, in any город, in any city of Russia. And I think that a lot of these buildings here, I see those posts, I'm like, oh dang, that could be my city. Because, of course, we have these special designs. We have the Space Invaders here, and maybe in a different city they have a different design. But really, I've seen some pictures on there where I think, oh yeah, that could totally be Ulitsa Rovia in this picture. I wouldn't even know. If somebody told me that's like Rovia 25, I would say, okay, cool. So, and I really like this. I mean, I think that these buildings are beautiful. I think that the pointy boys over there are beautiful. There's that little entrance with all of the almost like Nordic like circle things. And I think a lot of this is beautiful. I find the beauty in this kind of standard Russian architecture, standard Russian life. But it definitely is not super unique. There are probably many Russian cities that look very similar to this view right now. And you can see a couple more. I'm not sure if I'd consider those Novostroyki over there, but there are new buildings being built. Usually the Novostroyki have like brighter colors. They're really cool, actually. I love how these new buildings, the Novostroyki, look. I'm also realizing I think I'm going to take you on a slightly longer route than I need to, just because if I was following a map, or, I probably don't even need a map for this, but basically there's a slightly quicker way where you walk through a ton of yards to get to the center, but I don't know it perfectly, and I don't really want to be meandering on this. So I'm going to take you on a slightly longer route than my average route would take me, but I'll get to show you all of the goodness of Ulitsa Rovia. And over here, you can see shawarma. I think in this city, there's some shawarma, some shawarma, some doner. There's kind of a debate between the cities, which is the correct term to use. If you're from St. Petersburg, you say shawarma. But if you're from Moscow, you say shawarma. And my Russian tutor, my wonderful friend Lera, once told me that in her village, Borovichi, I think it's Borovichi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's either Borovichi or Borovichi. But anyway, basically there's one shawarma place and one shawarma place, because this village is located pretty much in the center between St. Petersburg and Moscow, which I think is a good illustration of this kind of geopolitical food debate on how we name our food, which is totally goofy, but I still take part in it. I have a magnet on my fridge that says shawarma, лучше shawarma, which is shawarma is better than shawarma. So basically, St. Petersburg is better than Moscow. I got it when I was in St. Petersburg on study abroad. And yeah, that is definitely a Novostroyka style over there. You can see it's, again, a lot of geometric patterns, just like the classic Soviet buildings, but these are colorful geometric patterns, whereas the classic buildings are very kind of gray, like white gray, sometimes a little darker colored. These ones have like brown squares of different hues, of different shades. And you can see a lot of standard shops over there. Santechnika, like a repair shop, like, you know, home tech, apteka, the pharmacy, Dietskaya Linia, some kind of like children's store. Oh, and I forgot to mention that shawarma place that I was talking about. That's the best shawarma place, the best shawarma place in Petrozavodsk that I've tried. My friends Alex and Igor, I believe, recommended it to me a while ago. And it's called the Dobry Saracen. So like friendly Saracen. I believe Saracens were some kind of knight in the medieval ages. So it's kind of funny, it's like friendly knight, but they have wonderful shawarma there. You get a big portion for not very many rubles. I mean, I think it's like 150 or 160 rubles for a srednaya, an average shawarma that's around 370 grams, whereas often it's closer to 200 or 250 even rubles for that amount of food at another place. And the people there are very kind. There are a couple of guys who work there kind of in alternating shifts from Tajikistan, from Dushanbe, and we've become friends. And it's also kind of a nice chance to pat myself on the back because I actually speak Russian better than they do, which is, I mean, I'm still probably one of the worst Russian speakers in this city, given that I'm not from Petrozavodsk, I'm not from Russia, but at least I'm better than a couple of people here. And you have Sberbank over there, the main bank. I really like that building. I often wonder what some of these buildings were used for in the Soviet time before, you know, the 21st century, because I bet that building existed before, and there are some interesting ones. I'll get to show you another one in a little bit. That I wonder what it used to be used for. I wonder why it looks that way, who designed it. And of course you have Pinta, Dom Razlivnega Piva, house of, I guess, beer on tap, basically, house of flowing beer. And you have these all over the city. You have Vasilich by my dorm. It's pretty common. It's not a bar, but you can get beer there. And I think, I've never actually been there, so I don't know, but I think it's also like a way to get around alcohol laws, stopping sales of alcohol around 10, because it's not really a bar, but you can get beer there and then probably just take it home. But I don't know. I've never done that, obviously, so I'm a law-abiding Choloviak here in Petrozavodsk. And you have a giant magnet over here. I showed you one of the smaller magnets, baby magnets. Here is mother-father magnet. This is like the mothership right here. And I really like Russian hypermarkets, hypermarkets. You've also got a couple buses over here, the 25, the 22. I really like these hypermarkets. They often have interesting color designs, and somehow it's just more fun than being at like Walmart in the United States. Even though it's kind of the same thing, there's just somehow an added element of fun in being in one of these places. Although I've never been to this magnet. I usually, if I need a hypermarket, I go to Lenta, which you won't get to see in this video, unfortunately, but it's nearby. It's on, I believe it's Karyelsky Prospekt, which if you go in that direction down, maybe 10-15 minute walk from here, you'll get to Karyelsky Prospekt, Karelian Prospect, Karelian, I think, Boulevard. I forget if Prospekt is Avenue, or I think it's Avenue actually, like Nevsky Prospekt, Nevsky Avenue. But you'll get to Karyelsky Prospekt, Karelian Avenue, and you'll find the Lenta, my wonderful Lenta hypermarket. And that's where I've been buying some of my stuff. Again, I'm not really freaking out on a personal level about coronavirus. I mean, you know, it is what it is. I feel like maybe I'm even embracing my new Russian side on that. Like, it'll just happen, life will go on. But, I'm nervous about the social implications of it. I'm nervous about the social reactions to it, society's reactions to it. So, of course, I've stocked up on my grechka, I've stocked up on some water, and Lenta is where I did that. Again, we just have some standard Soviet-era apartment buildings over here. And over there. They're all over. And I guess now that we're 26 minutes into this video, I should probably say, the reason I'm shooting this video, the inspiration for this, was a video I watched that an American in Yakutsk in, I think, 1992 or 1993 took. And it was just fascinating to see what Russian life looked like 25 years ago in this far north Siberian city. Also, you have a sculpture over here. I'm not sure exactly what it means, but it's a cool sculpture. But anyway, I saw this video on YouTube, and I thought, oh man, this is so cool to see just what life looked like through the eyes of an American like me, but 25 years ago. And so part of the reason I'm shooting this video is for posterity, so that in 25 years, somebody who is going on the Fulbright program can look at this video and say, oh, cool, this is what a Russian city looked like 25 years ago. Maybe it won't be interesting to them, maybe it will be. Maybe things will have changed, maybe, probably things won't have changed. But all I can say is I'm just kind of trying to capture a day in my life, both for myself, because if I have to leave soon, I want to be able to kind of just relive a standard walk. I'm a walking person, so I want to kind of be able to relive this, but I also hope that someday somebody will find this interesting. Maybe hot один человек, at least just one person will find this interesting, and that will serve my goal. So now I'm going to see if I can beat this. 8 seconds left, 6 seconds. I think I can beat it. I'm just going to run a little bit. The lights give you no leeway here. If you don't cross the street and the light goes off, the green lights for the drivers start up right away. So you've got to get across quickly. But the reason I wanted to cross here specifically is because you'll be able to see that building that I mentioned briefly, that I alluded to. Again, you have some shops over there. Velikolyutsky Мясокомбинат, a meat store. Another apteka. Borodinsky, one of the more common grocery stores here, although not one of the best. Their prices aren't great and their selection isn't great, but it'll do. Some of them in my neighborhood have changed to, what is it? I think it's Petrozavodsk State, but it's basically the same store, just with a different name. And I can't use my discount card there anymore, which is kind of sad. I bought a discount card for Borodinsky when I first got here because I thought that I would be there more frequently than I am, but now I go to Magnits 90% of the time, so there's no need. Again, you see the Pointy Boys up close, and over there you can see Becker, one of the most popular cafes in Petrozavodsk. These are everywhere, and it's popular because it's cheap. You can get a cup of tea for like 35 rubles. I forget if it's 35 or 40, but it's cheap. You can get sochins. I love sochins, stvorogom. Sochin stvorogom. It's basically like a pastry with tvorog, which is kind of like cream cottage cheese if you removed the liquid. And it's used in a lot of desserts here. I love tvorog. You can also get kalitkas there. I'll explain kalitkas in a little bit. But this is the building I was talking about. It's formerly a semya, which is one of my favorite names for a shop here in Russia. It's, semya, Sam, like the number 7, ya, like me, or I guess. And then semya, like family. So semya. Unfortunately, a lot of the semyas in the city and a lot of grocery stores in general have been closing. I don't know why. But then you also have some kind of statue over here. I don't really know what it means, but it's a statue. And in the distance, you can see the trolley bus. I think that's the number 5, the most common trolley bus for students to ride. And the most common trolley bus that I ride, because it takes you right to Ulitsa Lomonosova. over in that direction, which is, again, that bus stop I told you about that I often go to. Again, more of the pointy boys. They're everywhere. Pointy boys, pointy boys, pointy boys. And Studia Krasoty Hollywood. You also have a church in the distance. I don't know what denomination that is. I see it all the time, but I've never stopped by there. It definitely doesn't look like a classic Orthodox church, so perhaps it's Lutheran. I know that there are a decent amount of Lutheran churches here because, again, we're close to Finland. There's some influence from that, quite a bit actually. I'm also just crossing this here because I see Stoliet Komu. Stoliet Komsomolu. 100 years of the Komsomol. And the streets are dirty, of course. I can see a woman wiping her shoes off on the ice. But yes, this is 100 years of the Komsomol. Definitely gotta wipe your shoes off on the snow when you get the chance, because the roads are dirty. A girl I went on a date with recently gave me a really good quote that I'm gonna remember forever. Ruskaya mechta, chistaya vesna. So the Russian dream is a clean spring. It's a dream, maybe like the American dream. Maybe it's not fully actualized, because I doubt that you will find чистую весну в России. I doubt that you will find a clean spring anywhere here. It gets very dirty because all the snow melts, and basically that unleashes all of the mud, all of the dirt. And I think that's really a key part of the Russian experience, a key part of living in a Russian city, especially one that's not St. Petersburg or Moscow, is just the dirt. I was walking yesterday through, there's like the storage area, because these storage lockers are also very popular, very common. You'll find them all over the city. I can show you very soon. But see, even here, there's some dirt I'm walking through, some mud. You can see my boots. They're muddy. They've been muddier. But I think a really typical Russian experience, something that sums up that really defines my experience here, is just kind of slipping and sliding through the mud. Because, again, it gets dirty here, it gets muddy here, it gets wet and muddy. And I think that that's one of those things that really, if I remember anything in Russia, it's going to be one of the things I remember. I think it may sound goofy, but it's really a defining experience of being in Russia, and maybe even being Russian, is just walking through, slipping through, sliding through the mud. You can see another magnet through there. Magnets are everywhere. I think the different grocery stores depend on different cities. Like, I know that there aren't many Petrozavodsk or Dixies here, but they're very popular in other cities. In St. Petersburg, I always went to Dixie. So Magnet is kind of the Petrozavodsk grocery store. And I even, with my friend Stas and also my friend Daniel, who was visiting here from Tver, we were discussing this kind of like nightmare scenario. This is like almost a bad dream where you just come back to your home one day and all of a sudden it's been replaced by a magnet. And it's just that being kind of like the contemporary Russian nightmare, the contemporary like Kafka-esque story of Russia, is you get to your home and all of a sudden it's a magnet. And what do you do when your home has become magnet? I don't know. I don't know what I would do if I came home to Общежитие номер 1 in Staraya Kukkovka and just found a magnet instead of my dorm room. Again, you've got the 25 passing. And over here, we're starting to get into some of the beautiful classical buildings of Petrozavodsk. Of course, with a Lada dealership on the other side of the street, you have to have your Lada as well. But this, I'm not going to film it too much because I think it's technically illegal to film it. But basically, it's some kind of училище, like a learning place. I don't know the exact English translation for that. For like kids to go, and I think basically kind of like as an army prep thing almost. But again, I'm filming across the street because I want... Oh, also I should show you, these are some of the storage lockers. You'll see them everywhere in the city. Everywhere. Again, this is like a v любом городе России kind of thing. You'll see them in any city in Russia. But I'm going to keep my camera focused on the Lada Center because I don't want to get in any trouble. And you'll see here, kind of a standard bus stop sign, Kurgan. I know over there, off into the distance, there's some kind of like nature place called Kurgan, but I've never been there. It's like the one part of the south of the city that I haven't been to, so I really need to get over there before it's too late. Because again, I mean, I don't know, I'm not super nervous about my own health, but at the same time, I'm nervous that I'll have to leave soon. I know they send Fulbrighters home from Vietnam, from China, from Italy, from the like hardest hit areas, and of course, you know, crossing my fingers, spitting over my shoulder, knocking on wood as the Russians would do. It hasn't been so bad here in Russia, but still, there's currently a voluntary evacuation order in place for all Fulbrighters around the world. So it's pretty serious, at least as far as policy terms go. And I'm nervous that this is one of the last times I get to walk around here. I'm nervous that I won't get to see all of Petrozavodsk because I have plans. Because I'm the kind of person who loves to walk around the city. I walk around everywhere. My favorite hobby, more than music, more than baseball, it's walking around the city and getting to know it to the point that you don't need a map, that you can just walk around anywhere. You can find your way without even using a map. I love to bushwhack, as you know, me and my dad and my parents would do when I was younger, but especially with my dad. He's kind of the navigator in my family. I love to bushwhack. I love to just, you know, find my path. And maybe it's not the fastest path. Right now I'm not on the fastest path, but of course I'm not using a map. I'm just walking based on memory. And that's really cool. I think that knowing a city on that level, knowing where all the zapchasty, all of the spare parts stores are, where Kinderland is, that there's a repetitionная точка off in the distance off to the left, which is where you can reserve time and play music. I think that knowing which buses run by here, I think there's really something to be said for that, something I truly love about knowing a city and getting to know it. And so that's why I'm sad that I might have to leave early, because I had plans to, you know, really walk around the northern part of the city more, to check out some neighborhoods I still haven't been to. There's one place, I think it's called Universytetski городок, or Университетский город, something like that, like basically University City, where there are lots of townhouses, lots of nice kind of fancier houses that really, you know, it's not like this over here. Like this is like в любом городе России, these storage lockers. But those are some kind of nicer houses, and I wanted to see what that looks like, what the townhouse in Russia looks like. I mean, I wanted to visit even some of, like my friend Renat is living in Sulazhgora, which is in the north corner of the city, the northwest corner. And I mean, he used the term, I think, the Petrozavodsk ghetto, if it's fair to use that term. I don't know. I'll consider my use of language later. But for now, basically, I wanted to check that out. I want to see how the wealthiest in Petrozavodsk live, how this kind of, you know, it's not a wealthy city by any means, so it's not like it's going to be, you know, mansions anywhere. That's like, you know, going to be closer to Moscow. But how the wealthiest in Petrozavodsk live, and how the poorest in Petrozavodsk live. How, you know, just how people live here, the different ways that people live. I think that's something that's really important to me as well. And I'm sad that I might not get to see Университетский город or Sulazhgora. And over down there, again, that's where the repetitionная точка is. There's some train tracks. So I've crossed down there before. There's a crossing off in the distance that kind of reminds me of Sandusky, Ohio for some reason. Sandusky, I should say it correctly, not Sandusky, but Sandusky. But yeah, I can even see a person crossing in the distance. And the train is very important in Russia. The train is such an important cultural thing because, and I'm really blessed that I've had the chance to go on like the fast, nice train, have a coupe to myself, but also to take Platzkart on the train to Moscow. And Platzkart is a wonderful experience because you're just in this open area you have a bunk, and there are kind of these groups of 4 bunks, and then also like these 2 bokovoye miasta across the aisle. But the common way to do it is there are these groupings of 4 bunk beds, or 4 beds. There are 2 bunk beds and 4 beds total. And basically, you just kind of get to know the people in your areas, because you're all in this open area. It's a very communal experience, and you know, I've had some good conversations. I've made some good acquaintances. I've got to respond to my new friend. I should say my new acquaintance, because in Russia they treat friends differently. Like, you know, I wouldn't call every single person I run into a friend, whereas in the United States I would say, oh, my friend, my friend, my friend, my friend. But basically I've got to respond to a message from a guy that I met on the train. It was kind of a fun experience. I met some women going from Murmansk to Ufa, because they work in Murmansk and they're from Ufa. I don't know entirely what they do in Murmansk, why they would work so far from home. But I met some of them, and I met this guy Alexei, and basically we, you know, drank some wine and just hung out. We got to know each other, and I was pretty tired. It turns out I had pneumonia. Thank God I caught this pneumonia thing like right before the coronavirus became a thing, because I think I would have been freaking a lot of people out if, you know, that was a concern at that point. But, you know, I was really tired, and even with that, like, we still got to know each other and hang out and just have a good time. And I think that the Russian train experience, this communal experience, just, you know, slowly going through the Russian wilderness with a whole bunch of other people from one side of Russia to the other, I think it's really wonderful. And I'm glad that I've had the chance to take some Russian trains, because the Russians know how to do trains. I mean, they even, you know, have hot water for tea. They have the samovars, the like self-boiling. That's what that means, samovar. It's like some, you know, self, and varit, which is, I believe, to boil. And, you know, they've got those in every train car. So Russian trains, got to do it someday. And again, you just got this muck. I'm just slipping and sliding through this muck. And I'm coming up soon to one of the main streets in Petrozavodsk. I guess it depends on how you define the center. I think some people would say that this is not the center. Some people would say that this is the start of the center. But this is Prospekt Aleksandra Nevskovo, named for the famed hero Aleksandr Nevsky. So if you've got Nevsky Prospekt in St. Petersburg, really like the main street, then Prospekt Aleksandra Nevskovo isn't quite the main street here, but he still occupies an important place in Russian history. And as somebody who loves, you know, the effect of the naming of streets, again, you've got the 5 here, the 5 trolley bus, my trolley bus, and Krasnaya Belia, because of course we've got Becker, we've got Krasnaya Belia all over the city. But anyway, about Aleksandr Nevsky and street names, I think that, again, street names have very important cultural and political implications. I did my term paper in the post-Soviet sphere on street naming in Kazakhstan, specifically the case of renaming Ulitsa Furmanova. I had a debate earlier about how to pronounce that, but the renaming of that to Prospekt Nazarbayeva, and what political and cultural implications we get about who we remember and who we don't. And so Aleksandr Nevsky, who famously defended off the Teutonic Knights, and is memorialized in one of the most famous Soviet movies. I believe it was an Eisenstein movie. Aleksandr Nevsky is still very, very well remembered in Russia. And we've got a Parikmacherskaya across the street, a haircut place, a barbershop, another Velikolupsky Мясокомбинат, Ryba Produkty, we're by Lake Anya, so of course we've got some Moria Produkty, some Ryba. We've got a 24-hour flower shop over there. And those are all over the place too, these 24-hour flower shops. I've heard rumors that they also sell alcohol after hours, because why else would you buy flowers at 3 a.m.? But I can't confirm that. That's just a rumor that I've heard. And again, we've got some kind of like more military army institution over to the left, so I'm not going to film that because I want to be legal as I do this. I do not want to get into any trouble. Again, we've got the classic park Makarskaya over there, and now we've got Chik Strichki, maybe a more modern haircut place. And another Becker, because of course, we want to get our Sochny, we want to get our Kalitki at cheap prices. And a bus to Sulezhgora, of all places. And from Kluchevaya to Sulezhgora, from the far south to the far north. We've got Becker over here. And as I mentioned earlier, you can get not only a Sochin Stvorogam at Becker, but you can also get Kalitski. You can get a Kalitska, which to most Russians, they would say, Kalitska, what? You're going to get a gate? Why would you buy a gate to eat? But in Karelia, one of the traditional foods, actually probably the most famous traditional Karelian food that everybody knows, it is the Kalitska. And I wish I could show you on camera. I should have stopped by that Becker, but it's too late. I've already walked by. Basically, it's this pastry that can have either millet or potato or sometimes tvorog, sometimes other things as well in the center. And so it's almost like a boat with this very defining, very unique kind of pressed inside. And then with a center full, like a swimming pool, an ocean, a sea full of, again, millet, tvorog, full of potato. So that's one of the most popular things. I mean, I remember when I first got here and I was doing all these introductory classes, where I was basically telling people about myself when I was kind of, asking some students about their lives in Russia, what questions they have about America, kind of doing the standard, citizen diplomacy thing of just going class to class and doing this presentation on myself. Students would often ask me, have you tried a Kalitka yet? Because at first, they'd be like, oh, what's your favorite Russian food? And of course I could say borscht, although that's of course a debate. Maybe a sporny vopros, is borscht Ukrainian or Russian, but that's for another day. I won't get into that. But, borscht, of course I've tried pelmeni. I get pelmeni all the time. I have my pelmeni v morozilniki. I have my pelmeni in the freezer because of course that's necessary. But then they would ask, have you tried a Kalitka? And they would always get a little excited, just a little excited when I would say, yes, I have tried a Kalitka. And I really like Kalitkas. I think that Russian pastries, cookies, Russian sweets, really, if there are two really good things in Russian food, because some of my friends like to make fun of Russian food, of course, there's no spice whatsoever. You cannot find spicy Russian food. Some of it, some of the menu items are eccentric, to say the least. You have holodets, which is sort of this gelatinous, meaty dish. You have selyodka pod shuboi, which includes beets and mayonnaise, and it's just different layers of ingredients. And these things that really to foreigners don't look all that appealing. Although I've tried them and I enjoyed them. I can't say I loved them, but I liked them. But pastries like kalitki, sochny, Russian pastries are really one of my favorite things about Russian cuisine. And of course, Russian soups. You've got borscht, selyanka, rasolnik, shi. I think if Russians do two food things really well, it is pastries and soups. And down here you have a park. Off in the distance, you should be able to see, well actually that's a bridge a little further over. Basically I can see from here, I don't think you can see on the camera, but the National Theater. You can just barely see it right in the center. The National Theater of Karelia. I've been there once and I saw a performance of all these different nations who live here in Petrozavodsk on Din Narodного Единства, on the day of not quite national unity, but the unity of peoples, basically. I hope I'm translating that right. All of these translations are only 80% guaranteed to be correct, so 4 out of every 5 is correct, kind of like with dentists. And now you've got, of course, a river over here. I believe this is the Lososinskaya, but again, I'm not positive on that. Lososinskaya River. That's like kind of one of the main rivers in Petrozavodsk. But it's a river. We'll say it's a river. And you've got a park you can walk through. And we're actually getting pretty close to the center now. It's amazing, you know. It really doesn't, even though I live on one of the edges of the city in Staraya Kukkovka, all the way far out, it's actually only like, I think, 5 kilometers to walk to the center. So, you know, this video's been about 50 minutes and I haven't even been walking as fast as I could. And we've got a Lutheran church over there too, by the way. And a classic, I really like the green color of this 2-story home and some street signs. But anyway, it really doesn't take that long to walk to the center. So I think that's really cool. Again, as somebody who loves to walk, as a guliaющий по городу человек, not a guliaющий человек, but as a guliaющий по городу человек, I really appreciate being able to walk everywhere, because it's really not that big a city geographically. I forget exactly how it compares to St. Paul, Minneapolis, because it has the same amount, it has roughly the same population as St. Paul, Minnesota, but I think the territory is smaller. I don't know for sure. Again, because, you know, there are a lot of apartments. It would make sense if you put a lot of people in apartment buildings instead of single homes. Of course, you're going to have a smaller territory of the city. But I don't have any data to back that up. I remember looking it up at one point, and I think it is smaller. Actually, I compared it to Acton, to my hometown, where 20,000 people live and not 200-something thousand. And I think it was, you know, it was definitely bigger than Acton. I think it was like 2 or 3 times the size of Acton by land size. But, of course, it's like 10 to 15 times the amount of people in this space. So, you know, cities here are a bit more condensed because, you know, you don't need as much space if you have a bunch of apartment buildings everybody lives in. What do we have over here? We have Mebel. We have a furniture store. We have athletic club. I don't even have to translate that. And again, we're on Krasna Armeyskaya. We're on Red Army Street. So again, these names, you know, Russia is in the 21st century. We aren't in the Soviet Union anymore. But the street names haven't changed, which I think is relevant in some way. Because there's still a lot of Soviet memory, a lot of nostalgia for the Soviet times. That's not to say whether it was better or worse, because I think there have been a lot of like living standard improvements, and a lot of nostalgia is that. It's nostalgia and nothing more. But the Soviet Union lives on here in the memories of people who every time, you know, you have a kid born, you know, you have like a 5-year-old walking this street. He never lived in the Soviet Union. It's been, you know, he was born 25 years after the Soviet Union ceased to exist. But words like Krasna Armeyskaya, like Red Army, and then of course soon you'll have Prospekt Lenina, you have Lenin, and Prospekt Karla Marxa. These are still words that he will be, and people who he will be very familiar with. And so again, you know, you can say, you know, like that's fignya, that's nothing. The street names, why does that matter? But I think that at the level that we interact with these street names every day, like I always say, oh yeah, let's meet at Prospekt Lenina. I mean, you know, when else would I say I'm going to meet at Lenin Street? When else would I talk about Lenin in the contemporary world, in capitalist Russia in 2020? So I think there is still some relevance. And over there you can see K. I always thought it was okay because there's, you know, in the logo there's a circular face. And it would seem to make sense that you would call a place okay because, you know, as a mall, okay, that sounds nice. Okay, let's go to okay. But it's actually only called K, which I kind of like better. I like that it's an abbreviation. Have another apteka, another pharmacy over here. And you have Spar. Again, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the grocery stores here, Spar, Semya, they've been closing down, and I don't know quite why. So that Spar doesn't actually exist anymore. It's a closed grocery store. And Spar was never the best grocery store. It's a little more expensive than Magnit. You know, it wasn't the most cost effective. I think it's still better than like Borodinsky. But first off, it was really good to have supermarkets in the city center. Now we almost have a food desert in the center of Petrozavodsk. We have 2 grocery stores by the university campus. We have Dixie and Sigma. Sigma is overpriced. It's like one of the most expensive grocery stores in the city. And Dixie is better priced, but it doesn't have a whole lot of selection. And then we've also got Petrozavodsk, kind of on the other side of the center, but the center is almost a food desert. When I got here, there was Spar in the Maxi Mall. There was Semya in buildings like the one I showed you earlier, also in one of the buildings on the main avenue on Prospekt Lenina. So there is a lot less now as far as grocery stores go. We've also got Second Hand over here. I love that one. Basically, the translation from English to Russian is just saying the word in English with a Russian accent. So we've got Second Hand. I hope my Russian accent is good there. I don't know. My Russian accent's pretty bad overall. I know I can speak Russian pretty well, and I'm really proud of being able to have long conversations. I mean, going for like 6-hour dates and, you know, having long, intense conversations about philosophy and all that, you know, the kind of big questions of life. But I know my accent is not very good. I know my accent, honestly, is probably trash. My friend even commented yesterday that there were a couple of girls at the cafe we were at who just kept looking at us and kind of, you know, just listening to our conversation. I think because my accent drew them in, because, you know, you hear this weird, bad Russian accent, of course you're going to listen. And you've got bowling over there. You've got Solo Burger Bar. The Solo nightclub is kind of off in the distance over back there. And it's one of the most popular nightclubs in Petrozavodsk. You've also got Kultura, which is my personal favorite. I've had some good nights at Kultura. There's also Yeli Pieli and what's the last one? Begimot, but I've never been to Yeli Pieli or Begimot. So again, I'm sad. You know, these are some places I might never make it to. But someday I will. We've also got Medsluzhba, a very classic old school, you know, I'm not sure I'd call it an ambulance, but like a medical vehicle. It looks like something out of the army. Probably is out of the army. But anyway, yeah, I went to Solo once and it was fun. But I don't know, I think I like Kultura. Kultura's a little cozier. And also just because of the memories I have at Kultura. I am a Kultura stan. And we also, in that same kind of general area as the bowling is okay, there's an anti-cafe called Kvartira. It used to be called Хорошее место, as far as I know, but now it's Kvartira. Or maybe now it's Хорошее место and it used to be called Kvartira. Anyway, it's unimportant. But I think anti-cafes are something we need to bring to the United States. This is like, if there's one thing I want, one kind of business I want to bring from Russia to the United States, it is anti-cafes. Because I know we have some occasionally, but we don't have that many. And basically the principles of an anti-cafe, the fundamental thing about it, and by the way, that's the med faculty right there, medicine. Basically, you pay for your time there. So they provide lots of snacks. They have like cookies and crackers and tea. And they have all these games. They have board games and video games. And you just go, you go for 2 hours. You pay for 2 hours of spending your time there. It's an hourly rate. And I think it's, first off, just a fun place to be. And it's kind of, it's a nice place to meet people. And secondly, it's a nice alternative to bars because, I like bars. I like the social aspect of bars. I like clubs. I like the social aspect of clubs. I like to dance, even if I dance awfully. But I think it's really important that we have like non-alcoholic ways to have fun too. I think that anti-cafes really fill a good role with that because cafes usually aren't open very late. And, they have some music events, but I think that anti-cafes are a bit more fun. They're a better meeting place. And I think it's really important that we have a variety of fun options in the city, especially ones that don't involve alcohol. Because alcohol's fun, but you don't always need alcohol. I think you have to, if you don't know how to have fun without alcohol in life, then that's pretty sad. So we're almost at an hour, and right at an hour, 59 minutes, 30 seconds, we're coming up to perhaps the most beautiful building in Petrozavodsk. And that is not Sumki, that is not Одежда из Finlandii, that is the train station. This is Petrozavodski Passagierski Vokzal, I think that's the official name for it. And let's just take a look at it for a minute. A beautiful, like, Stalinist, it looks like one of the Seven Sisters in Moscow, with the big star at the top of, on the end of the pointy rod. And they were doing repairs for a while on that building. So it's only within the last few months that you've been able to see it in its full glory. But again, truly beautiful train station. And we've got a bus stop over here. This is where I often get off of the 5 trolley bus to go to the university. And now we're getting to the main street. This is Prospekt Lenina. This is street number 1 in Petrozavodsk. And you can see over there also, this is like a main thoroughfare. You've got the sign pointing to Vkуснее if you go to the south, and Murmansk to the north. So this is the highway you take. This is like the route you take if you want to get to Murmansk. And now this is Prospekt Lenina. Beautiful, wonderful Prospekt Lenina. And you can see all these people walking around. It's a nice day outside. It's a Friday. And I've been to so many of these different shops. I remember that Pushka bank there. I tried to get money out from the ATM, but they only had 5,000 bills, which are annoying as hell because nobody likes the 5,000s. 2,000s are annoying, but 5,000s, nobody takes those. You spend 150 rubles on your groceries. You spend 300, 400 rubles on groceries, and nobody wants your 5,000 ruble bill. So I won't go back there. Then you have the megaphone, where I have bought my phone plan, where I've replenished my phone plan many times. Let's see, what time is it right now? Can I see? It's 1:02, so I've got class in 30 minutes. So I will have to go soon. I wanted to show you more of the Nabережная, the embankment on the lake, but I'm not sure I need to. The goal of this video is to show you my path to the university. Also, you've got this great sign over here for Xerox. It's a place where you can print out anything you need. Over there, you've got the sign for Burger King, which is the best, in my opinion, the best fast food place in the city because it's price efficient. You can get the 6 for 199 rubles deal, which gives you a cheeseburger, small fries, small chicken nuggets, small onion rings, a small soda, and a small sundae. All these, it's 6, so of course you don't get the large, but it's for 199 rubles. That's like $3. And you can upgrade it to a big king, like a bigger burger, or you can upgrade the size of the fries and the onion rings and keep it within about $4, which is, 250 rubles. Especially at this exchange rate, it's even a little less. And this is the main crossing before we get to the university, before we end this trip. We got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Just barely made it across in time. And now, This is Petrozavodsk. This is a city that I really feel like I've become connected to, and I feel like a Petrozavodchanian. I feel like somebody from Petrozavodsk. Just in the same way that Akron, the same way that St. Paul have become my second, third, whatever ex-homes. Petrozavodsk has become one of my homes, and so now here is the university. We are going to finish our trip, finish our walk through Petrozavodsk, and I couldn't think of a better place to do it because I have so many good memories of going to Russian class here, of going to Slova events, the international students organization, meeting students from all over the world, from Turkmenistan, from Colombia, from Jordan, and I just have a lot of good memories of this place. So here is the building, and this is where I will stop for now.